Hello, and welcome back to Fusion Writing, where character development meets structure. And today is our session on the map. We're in a week where we're discussing the Zettelkasten, how to use a card system to help you with your writing. And if you were here for the compass, we had an overview, got to look at a real life Zettelkasten, got to play with some cards, and got to find some wonderful tips from Victoria on what to capture on a card. And today, Tuesday, we're going to go a little bit more deeply into that topic, and we're going to talk about some more practical things and to do. And Victoria is going to lead the way, so I'm going to turn it over to her.
Hello, anti-novelists, friends, Zettelkasteners, and curious onlookers. Welcome. Okay, we had a great session yesterday. Kathleen did an amazing job of just breaking down what can be completely overwhelming Zettelkasten theory into literally something that anyone can do. If you have an idea for a story, if you're working on a research paper, whatever it is that you're wanting to do, or even if you're just reading something really fascinating and you want to be able to get back to that thing, we're going to set you up so you can do that starting today. So yesterday, I issued you a little bit of a challenge from Ernest Hemingway, the master himself, on observation. Just looking around your world on a daily basis and capturing on a card little snippets of conversation or interesting ideas, or maybe something that you saw, something that struck you as beautiful, something that struck you as strange, whatever. Capture those things on cards. And then we're going to talk through installing those cards into your system. And hopefully you have a much better sense of how that works now. But what I want to do for the map today is I want to share with you something that I call my roadmap for the novel structure. So in the beginning, when I first started working on my book, it was one book. It was a single story, one book. And workshopping it through my beta readers, I discovered based on their feedback that it was a much bigger animal than I originally thought. So I ended up separating it out. It's now a trilogy. So I've taken one book, I've chopped it all up into pieces, and now I'm working through finishing the first book in that series of 3. Well, in order to do that, you have to make sense of all the information. That's where I was completely stuck. I did not know how to get that done. And then, like fortune does, it intervened in my process and I found Scott Shepherd's YouTube videos on the Zettelkasten. And suddenly I understood how to make sense of all this information. So for me, even though the Zettelkasten is built as a nonfiction tool, it immediately made sense to me as a way of sorting and organizing my fiction. So that's what I set about. So the first thing that I did was I created a plot structure section in my Zettelkasten. Now, as Kathleen shared with you, most of my story takes place in the 7,000s. So what I'm going to share with you today begins with the number 7,001. It doesn't mean that you have to do that. Exactly as she said, your numbers are your numbers. I chose 7,000 because that kind of placed my plot box information for this book around the middle of my big box, and that worked for me. So you choose what works for you. I'm just sharing what mine looks like. So first, I will show you my little box. Yesterday, I think I pointed out that my first Zettelkasten began in the lid of my mom's old recipe box. So this is actually the body of that box. And my plot cards fit perfectly in here. So that's what you're looking at. These are all of my little plot cards that guide me as I start to sequence scenes and chapters that might make sense for my story. So that's all this is. It's just taken out of my big boxes that live behind me and put into this smaller box so that I can slot things in and out and move them around as I write. With that said, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so what you're looking at is your downloadable guide, your map for this week. Across the top, it says Zettelkasten for fiction, where imagination finds order. Roadmap for novel structure, using the 8 major plot points plus the 25 plus plot beats. A word about structure and plotting. I would never want to offend or leave my pantsers out of the game. So this is just a suggested structure that helps you order in your mind how your story might flow. So for some of you, out of the 4 acts that compose a story and the 8 plot beats within them, you might only use 5 of them. Some of you might invent new ones and insert new plot points or plot beats. Out of the 25 plus plot prompts, which prompt you towards ideas that could be scenes or chapters, some of you might use 29 and make up some of your own. Some of you might only use 6. It does not matter. The important piece is you have everything that you need at hand as you're going through that writing process, developing your story, so that when you get to, let's say, I'm looking at line 29, this inciting incident, the inciting incident is something that happens that thrusts your main character into the story. We like to call it the point of no return. They're in it, they can't go back, they have to go into this new world, this new situation. They're in it for the long haul. So maybe your inciting incident doesn't happen in Act 1. Maybe your inciting incident is something at the midpoint because your story is a longer, slow burn rather than crash them up at the beginning and launch into the conflict and the crazy activity between the antagonist and the protagonist. It does not matter. The important thing is you have the breadcrumb trail and the suggestions that you need to consider. I wonder if this will work for my story. Write it out, draft it out, look at it. You know, that's not going to work for my story. Let's look at a different one. Okay, maybe that'll work. That's how you use this tool. So let's just take a quick look at it. So this skeleton, as I said, is just a place for you to draw inspiration from, to draw some direction, something to navigate by, and to get that story down on the page so that you have something to edit and navigate by. So in Act 1, we've got the disturbance and the inciting incident that lead us to the first plot point. Now, if you look in column C is a summary of Derek Murphy's plot dot, which are 3 items per act, totaling 6, because you've got 2 halves in the act. They're just a few items that help you understand what might I want to include here. So maybe I want to include something peculiar that draws the reader in, wondering what is going on with this. Maybe you're going to have a call to adventure that makes your reader in those chapters go, what is going to happen now this character is being called on a quest? Maybe as you get to the end of that chapter, you're going to pull the rug out and that character is going to be turned end over tea kettle and have to figure out, how am I going to make sense of this crazy world and everything that has just happened to me? Are you starting to see how those things line up like dominoes in order to propel your character through the story? Now, if we look quickly in the next column, where it says additional prop leads for prompting story development, you'll use some of them, not all of them. Unless you want a 700-page book, go for it. So this column just gives you some other suggestions, things that you might think about. Now let's look here at line 48. Questions for Act 2, okay? Right before you go into this next act, out of 1 into Act 2, how is my protagonist going to execute her plan, achieve the goal, and avoid pain? What is the step-by-step plan for making this happen? So I'm asking you specific questions to think about. How am I going to get this character from where they are to where I need to get them to continue the story? So that's what this skeleton does. It serves to prompt you and guide you, and especially when you get stuck, help you ask some questions or consider some scene options to get your character further down the road of the story. So download this, feel free to mark it up, copy it up. The last thing I want to draw your attention to are here in column C, you'll notice next to Really Bad Day, it's numbered 7001. Next to Something Peculiar, it's numbered 7002. So in my plot box, each one of those is a card. So like here, inciting incident, 7003, and I've got a .A next to that. So this is just my breadcrumb trail that helps lead me through my story. And then if I need extra help, I've made these little cards, which are comprised from the items that are in column E. So the additional plot prompts, I've just listed them out on a little card, And I've just stuck that where it goes at that point in the plot. So like this one says, the characters in their normal world, how do they try to fulfill their wishes? Can I introduce tension, frustration, or disappointment? Can I show empathy or care for other characters? So I'm just asking myself those questions on a card, roughly placed in that part of the story, that help guide me through how to get that character moving on. So that's a high level look at the signposts and the prompts that help guide you through writing your story. So this combined with your character development guide, which helps you use a set of cards to develop each character in depth, right down to the shoes that they wear, their eye color, and what their favorite food is. That character development guide from last week, along with this roadmap for your novel structure, are two key elements that help you get that story, all of those little elements out of your head, either onto note cards or onto the page, and then start building that story world and propelling that character through. So I will leave you with that because that's a whole lot of stuff. But Kathleen is going to pick it up and take you further into using your Zettelkasten and how to implement this system so that it's manageable, it's simplified, and it becomes a tool that works for you. So I will pass it off to my esteemed colleague, Kathleen.
Okay, thank you so much, Victoria. That really is a valuable way of starting to organize the story. I can't wait to dive into that, some of those aspects, and see if I can move my story along that has gotten a bit stalled, and get back to writing about Jonathan and the dinosaur notebox. I'm so excited. Thank you very much. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go a little bit deeper into making cards, because I already told you to get a box, a shoe box, and some cards, or the lid of a recipe box, as Victoria suggests, and get ready to start putting cards into your box and figuring out, well, where are you going to go with them? How are you going to go about planning where to do with them? Because I threw the wide open to you. So now wide open for some people means too many choices. So we're going to narrow it back down a little bit to give you something a little bit more specific to work with. And then we're going to dive in and show you how you can use it for the exercises from the Compass Week and the exercises from the 2 map weeks that we have had with both resilience and balance. So I'm going to switch cameras over. We left you off yesterday with the idea that you're going to be needing to have some numbers. And mine are in the 4,000s and 5,000s, and Victoria's are in the 7,000s. And you get to pick a range for yourself. So what I'm going to cover next is what happens after the 4,000s. And I'm going to take a look at some examples, because then again, you get a lot of choices. But I think Victoria and I tend to make the same choice here. But just because you're going to see other people's cards, or if you read Scott's book, you're going to get exposed to other ideas. And I want you to understand that they're all basically saying the same thing. Yesterday, we talked about how the first 4 numbers are actually just geography. So here I'm just referring to them as the zip code. So those first 4 numbers get you in the proper zip code, and then the rest of the numbers get you to the proper address. Now, if somebody were writing a letter to you, they really would not put your name and then your zip code. You would need a little more information, but the zip code going to get you to your city and possibly the part of your city. And then the card number is going to get you to the specific card number. And you're going to see some very, very common ways of transferring from the zip code to the card number. My personal favorite is to use a dot, so that I could go maybe from card 1257, I would use .3 if I wanted the 3rd card. A dash of slashes are very common. So you're going to see many times 1257/3. Sometimes a letter is placed after the number and you don't need any punctuation at all, like 1257C. Sometimes you'll see a dash, 1257-3. Maybe you'll see something that's more like a postal code instead of a zip code. 1B5G-3. These are all valid card numbers. And the only thing I want you to know is that the numbers on the left are whereabouts you're going to find the card, front or the back or the middle of your Zettelkasten. And the ones on the other side of whatever symbol you choose to use are going to be which specific card you have in mind. Okay, so now, say for example, that you are going to be doing one of the exercises in fusion writing. You have these exercises like the map, and they tell you things like an example of what to write to get you an idea of writing about the character trait involved. For example, resilience is about stuff that's hard, long, or scary. And then one of the writing prompts is, have you ever had to dig down deep inside yourself to get yourself to do something scary? Well, that's a whole story. I don't expect you to write a whole story, get a blank file card and put your whole story on a file card. Nor do I suggest you get a stack of file cards and start writing your story on file card after file card. No, I suggest you use a journal. For me, my favorite journal is just a yellow legal pad. When I start a new yellow legal pad, I give it a number at the top of the legal pad. You can see this one is R.D24. You can see I've been doing this for a while, and I just put the date range that the legal pad covers. And every number, every page gets a number. So if I were to start and write a story, and this isn't, I'm just using this as an example. If this text here were my story on how I had to get myself to do something scary, then I would want to be able to find my story again. How am I going to find my story again? I just wrote it out. That's D24, 24 journals already. Where in 24 journals am I going to find the wonderful story that I want to use? I want to use it in my book now and I can't find it. Well, that's where your Zettelkasten comes in. Now, for me, if I were taking a class like this, which I am because I'm learning from Victoria, I would make out a card for fusion writing exercises. I have told you before that I put my writing in the 4,000, so maybe I'd call it 4,100 fusion writing exercises. And see that star there? That star simply tells me that I have something written on the back of the card. And on the back of the card, I've got that in journal D24 on page 10, story A, I wrote about how to do something scary when I was studying resilience. So this points into my journal, and in the margin of my journal, I point back to the card that I wrote it on. So they always point both ways. But that's still not going to help too much because I would have to remember, well, I could get out this card and see everything I've written. I might have a lot of them by the time I'm done. You might have noticed that I picked two words and I underlined them, scary and resilience. This is where the index comes in. Yesterday, I gave you a brief look from the outside in of what an index looks like. It's just alphabetical, and every index page starts with the letter of the alphabet and entries on where things are. I'll get into some details later on down the road, but we don't want to confuse you right now. So if we're just starting out, I would need two index cards. I would need an index card S for scary, and I would notice that on card 4,100, I have a reference to scary resilience. How did I get myself to do it? And I like to put a fair amount as much as I can fit in that line, because when I'm looking for it, if I see that, I will remember, oh yeah, that's that story that I wanted. I would also make a second entry in the letter R's for resilience, because this was about resilience. So if I'm looking for where did I have interesting stories on resilience, I can pull this up and I can say, oh yeah, that's when I had to get myself to do something scary. So index entries are how you find things again. These cards turn out to be a really great way if you're just looking through the things that you did in your fusion writing exercises. What did I learn in fusion writing? Well, you can flip through these cards and you're going to get a whole bunch of story ideas to quickly remind yourself of what's in your journal, and you'll have your journal pages to be able to get yourself back there. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to face front now. Okay, so here we are back together again. And one of the things that I want to remind you about as you play with these things, because you're actually starting to create Zettelkasten cards and capture things that you're going to want to use in your writing, setting out some plot points and making cards of your plot points. Can you imagine how much quality work you're getting done on building your story? This is pretty exciting. Be sure to join us over in LiLLiPub. We talk about these ideas Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and on Saturday, we have a marvelous Zoom call. If you're in LiLLiPub, go to the events tab and you'll see the time of the call in your time zone. So you won't have any trouble figuring out when the call is. And I just hope to see you there. We had a fantastic call. We had 6 people on our first Zoom call, very lively. It was an awful lot of fun. I think you'd really enjoy coming and joining us over on LiLLiPub for that call. Victoria?
Absolutely. We talk a lot behind the scenes about why we're doing what we're doing. And should anyone be crazy enough to ask us, we can go on and on forever about how much we have to share and how many times someone has said, you know, this just doesn't make sense to me. This Zettelkasten thing, I really want to try it. I just don't know. Our goal is to bring you, as our young writers and readers, and even experienced writers and readers that just want to try something different or maybe get a refresh and an uplift. Our goal is to give you that gift, to bring you in with us, to help lift you up, to help support you. And ultimately, as Kathleen has said so many times, and now it has become my personal mantra, I want to hold your book in my hands. If you're a writer and if you're a reader, I want you to come on board and discover some of the amazing writers and authors that are finding us and sharing their work. So come join us, jump into fusion writing if you are so inclined, and let's write some amazing stories together, because I think the sky's the limit with this group.
I think so too. It's so exciting because here you have 2 coaches, and you'll find when you get over there, there's more than 2 of us. We're just happen to be the ones teaching this particular class. We've got a whole lot of people who are very enthusiastic about writing. You will find friendship, you will find encouragement, and you'll find a lot of personal attention right now, because we're just getting going. You are so lucky to be here at the very foundation of LiLLiPub. I tell you, my dream is that one day LiLLiPub is going to be producing great authors. Why don't you become one of them? I would be so proud to say, yes, and LiLLiPub published his first book. So
Yes.
come over to LiLLiPub, and we will also see you next week on Monday right here on YouTube, where we'll launch into our first writing week. So it's very exciting. I'm excited about that. So enjoy your time with the Zettelkasten. Drop your questions in over there, or you can even put them as comments in the video. We'll answer them there. LiLLiPub is the most fun, though. It'll be great to see you over there. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.